Good morning, students. Today we are going to continue the same lesson, lesson 9 of your book, The Great Depression in Europe. And in this module, we will discuss the Great Depression in Britain and France. Let's discuss first the objectives of the topic. The objectives of the topic are to understand the Great Depression in USA, the Great Boom and the Crash, the reign of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, impact of Great Depression on Germany. What was the impact of Great Depression on Japan? Impact of Great Depression in Britain and the Great Depression in France. And in this module, we are going to discuss what was the impact of the Great Depression or the economic crisis on Britain and France. Before we go ahead with the topic, let us understand the new words of the topic. Coalition government. A coalition government is the one in which the multiple political parties come together and often reduce the dominance of the party that has won the highest number of seats. Or in other words, we can also say when number of political parties club together to form the government, it is called as coalition government. The next word is Tory group. The Conservative and Unionist Party, usually shortened to Conservative Party or informally as Tory Party, is the main right-wing political party in the United Kingdom. There are mainly two political parties in England. One is Conservative Party and the other is the Labour Party. The other and more famous name of the Conservative Party is the Tory Party. This party believed in old customs and traditions and believed in orthodoxy. This party believes in the old heritage of British Empire. The next word is Whigs, a member of the British Reforming and Constitutional Party that sought the supremacy of Parliament and was eventually succeeded in the 19th century by the Liberal Party. I have already discussed with you that there are mainly two major parties in England. One is the Labour Party and second is the Conservative Party. The third party, which is less popular, is called as the Liberal Party. The other name of the Liberal Party is the Whigs Party. So the member of the Liberal Party is also called as Whigs. Next is national government. In the United Kingdom, a national government is a coalition of some or all the major political parties. In historical sense, it refers primarily to the governments of Ramsay MacDonald, Stanley Baldwin and Neville Chamberlain, which held offices from 1931 until 1940. In England, between the time period of 1931 and 1940, they formed the coalition government of Conservative Party and Liberal Party. This coalition government was called as the national government. The next word is deflation. Deflation is when general price level in country are falling, as opposed to inflation when prices rise. Deflation can be caused by an increase in productivity, a decrease in overall demand, or a decrease in the volume of credit in the economy. In simple words, deflation means when the prices of commodities fall down in market. There can be many reasons for this deflation or decrease in the price rise. One reason can be increase in the productivity or increase in the production level. The second reason could be that the consumers are preferring now less of that commodity. That means the demand fall down. And the third reason can be that the circulation of money in the market is less. The next word is purchasing power. Purchasing power is the amount of goods and services that can be purchased with the unit of currency. The next word is policy of appeasement. Appeasement was the name given to Britain's policy in 1930s of allowing Hitler to expand unchecked German territory. Most closely associated with British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, it is now widely discredited as the policy of weakness. Appeasement, in simple word, means to make someone happy. In order to avoid the Second World War, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain let Hitler occupy many territories like Czechoslovakia and Sudetenland. But in future, this proved very fatal because this became the reason for the Second World War. The next term is Munich Pact. Munich Agreement or Munich Betrayal was an agreement concluded at Munich on 30th September 1938 by Nazi Germany, the United Kingdom, the French Third Republic, and the Kingdom of Italy. In fact, the Munich Agreement and policy of appeasement are related to one another. As Neville Chamberlain adopted the policy of appeasement, he signed an agreement with Hitler called as the Munich Pact, in which England, Italy, and France accepted the control of Hitler over Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia. Now let us discuss the Great Depression in Europe, which took place in 1929 and continued till the beginning of the Second World War, 1939. Now let us start with the first topic of this module, the impact of Great Depression on Britain. Political upheaval in Britain. At the end of the First World War, a coalition government continued in Britain from 1918 till 1922. In the new words, I had made it clear that coalition government means when more than one political party comes and rule over the government. In 1922, the Conservative came to power and ruled Britain up to 1924. Conservative is one of the most important political party of England, and if we see the old history of England, it is most of the time the Conservative Party which has ruled over England. The Conservatives' ministry sought a general election to fight unemployment by change of policy and was defeated. The major problem before Conservative Party was to tackle with the problem of unemployment caused by the Wall Street crash of USA. But it was unable to control unemployment, so it was defeated in the general elections. Then came in the Labour Party of Ramsay MacDonald. As I have discussed in the New Words that in England, the two major parties are the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. So when Conservative Party got defeated in the election due to its failure to tackle unemployment, the Labour Party under the leadership of Ramsay MacDonald came and ruled over England. So Ramsay MacDonald became the Prime Minister of England. Within 10 months, the Conservative defeated the Labour Party and Baldwin became the Prime Minister for the second time. But Labour Party was also not successful in tackling the economic problem. So within 10 months, again the Conservative Party came to rule. The party remained in power up to 1929. Baldwin's government collapsed in the general election of 1929 and Ramsay MacDonald of Labour Party ran the government from 1929 to 1931. So we are seeing that there was changing governments in England. First, the Conservative ruled, then Ramsay MacDonald government of Labour Party came into existence. Within 10 months, it was defeated and again Conservative Party under the leadership of Baldwin came to rule over England. And then again a political upheaval was there and Labour Party again ruled over England. So there was a changing power between Labour Party and Conservative Party during the time England was going through the phase of economic crisis. Thus from 1918 to 1931, the charge of the British government was shifted like a shuttlecock from Tory to Labour and Labour to Tory. And here, Tory means the Conservative Party. The main problem before the government in these years was economic depression and mounting unemployment. Both for the Conservative and Labour Party, the biggest problem was to tackle the problem of unemployment caused by the economic depression which was started in USA. Neither the Tory nor the Whigs could cope up with these problems. Both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party were unable to solve the problem. There was huge deficit in the budget. The budget was going through the phase of economic crisis. There was loss. The budget was negative. That means the expenditures were more and the income was less. Any attempt to curtail employment met stiff resistance in the Commons. Any steps taken by the government to decrease employment or wages was met with severe opposition by the common people. In 1931, there was sharp division in cabinet. That means even the members of the ruling party differed from each other on policy making. Hence, the leaders of Tory and the Liberal parties agreed to form national government in Britain comprising of leaders of different parties. Seeing the position of political instability in England, the Tory party, means the Conservative party, and the third party, the Liberal party, which was less popular, combined together to form a national government which comprised of many parties. England got its first ever national government which comprised of the leaders of the Conservative party and the Liberal party. Formation of national government. The original idea was that national government would be free to draw upon talents of members of all parties so that it would represent nation as a whole rather than being a coalition of parties like those which existed between 1915 and 1922. Before 1929 also there had been coalition governments in England, but this time an effort was made to take the help of the different leaders of different political parties so that England could come out of the problem of severe unemployment and economic crisis. In order to help England to come out of economic crisis, some emergency measures were taken by the national government. On 10th September 1931, the new national government issued an emergency budget, which immediately instituted a round of cuts in public spending and wages. That means the wages, the salaries of the employees were decreased. Public sector wages and unemployment pay were cut by 10% and income tax was raised from 22.5 to 25%. The salary given in the public sector or the government offices was decreased by 10%, so as the unemployment pay which the government was given to the person who were already unemployed was also decreased to 10%. On the contrary, income tax was raised from 22.5% to 25%. This was done to increase the GDP or the gross domestic product of the country. Britain left the gold standard and value of pound fell by 1/4. These reforms of the national government were not successful. The pay cuts did not go down well. However, they resulted in non-violent mutiny in the Royal Navy protesting the pay cut. The government decided to decrease the salary and wages of the government officials, but it resulted into mutiny and protests by the government official. And the best example in this was the Royal Navy, which protested against the decrease of their salary. These measures were deflationary and merely reduced purchasing power in the economy, worsening the situation, and by the end of 1931, unemployment had reached nearly 3 million. The measures taken by the national government resulted into deflation. Deflation means decreases in the prices of the commodities. The prices of commodities started falling down and purchasing power, the capacity of the consumer to buy the products in the market also decreased. Hence, the situation was more worsened and unemployment level raised to the peak in England. Now let us discuss what were the reasons of the failures of the reforms. The first reason of the failure was the over-evaluation of sterling, reduced demand for exports leading to lower economic growth. Many heavy industries such as steel, coal became less competitive in this period. Over-evaluation means when a country decides that it will increase the value of its currency in relation to other currency. When the value of currency was increased in England, it resulted into shortages in export. So many industries like steel, iron and coal became less competitive in this period because its export fell down. The second reason for the failure of the reforms of national government was deflation. The over-evaluation of sterling and relatively high real interest rate contributed to the period of falling prices. Due to over-evaluation or increase in the value of currency of England as compared to the other currencies, they resulted in deflation. Deflation means the prices of the commodities fell down in the market. This deflation increased the burden of debt and reduced spending. The British government thought that by over-evaluating its currency, the prices of the commodities will fall down in the market and it will not result or affect its export. And people will increase their spendings that would result into increased purchasing power of the consumer. But it did not happen. The over-evaluation of sterling resulted into less export and even fall in the prices of the things in the domestic market. And in spite of helping the people to spend more, it affected the people's spending habit badly. People did not have any trust in the market and it resulted into less or reduced spending on the part of the people. The third reason for the failure of the reforms of national government was the tight fiscal policy. In the aftermath of the First World War, that means after the First World War, UK debt reached up to 180% of GDP. GDP means gross domestic product or the amount of total services and things produced in one's country. So, due to tight fiscal policy or due to over-evaluation of its currency, its debt reached even more than of its GDP. To reduce debt to GDP in a period of deflation was difficult and required high primary budget surpluses. This required strict budgets, but also because of deflation and low GDP growth, it proved very difficult to reduce debt to GDP ratio. To conclude that why were the reforms of national government was a failure, we can say that over-evaluation of the pound sterling was the basic reason. Over-evaluation resulted into less export, deflation, more debt on GDP, purchasing power of the people also reduced and spending habit also reduced. It resulted into higher unemployment level. Now let us discuss the reforms done by Neville Chamberlain as the Exchequer of England. Neville Chamberlain became the Chancellor of Exchequer. Though it was a national government in name, the majority ministers came from the Conservative Tory party. Neville Chamberlain, who belonged to Conservative party, became the financial exchequer of the government. Though in name it was a national government, but majority of its leaders were from the Conservative party. In 1932, Chamberlain introduced his tariff reforms and imperial preference system. Imperial goods were immune from tariff, but other imports were subject to tariff. This decision was taken at Ottawa. In 1932, in Ottawa, Chamberlain decided to increase the taxes on the goods which were being imported, but only reduce the tariff of the goods which belonged to the imperial goods. Here, imperial goods means those goods which were given subsidy by the English government. The second reform done by Neville Chamberlain was the bank rate was reduced to 2% after 1932. People could take bank loan for industries at cheaper rate as the bank rate or the interest rate was reduced to only 2%. The third step was that income tax was lowered after 1934. Just in the beginning of this module, I have discussed with you that national government increased the income tax rate from 22.5% to 25%, and people started opposing it. Neville Chamberlain reduced the income tax after 1934 so that he could get the support of the common people. The next step of Chamberlain was the 10% salary cut was stopped so that people purchasing power could be increased. As reverse to the national government, where national government has decreased the salary by 10%, He stopped the salary cut of 10% so that the purchasing power, the capacity of the consumers to purchase things with a certain amount of money, could be increased in the market. The fifth step of Neville Chamberlain was that the government grants were given to the farm and factories at low rate of interest. To the farmers, that means to development of the agriculture and for development of industries. The bank rate was reduced so that investment could be done by the agriculturalists and the manufacturers. The next step was that unemployed workers were encouraged to move to midland farms and factories for jobs where space and employments were available. In fact, the fifth and the sixth points were correlated. On one hand, government provided cheap credit facilities to the peasants and for the manufacturers to set up their work. And on the other side, they asked the unemployed workers to go and work over these factories and farms so that employment level could also be generated. Now let us discuss what were the reforms done by the government to improve the agriculture. The national government now tried to protect agriculture by adopting the following methods. Subsidies were given to the agriculture. Subsidy means special protection. The farmers were helped with the cheap credit and also they were given more prices for their crops. Guarantee of price was given to the farmers so that they could produce more to gain more profit. Marketing boards were established which regulated price by restricting output. Marketing boards were created so that the farmers could get the fixed price for their crops. In shipbuilding, cotton industry, attempts were made to boost production. Government advanced loans to ship owners to buy ships so that other industries could also get benefit. Government started providing loan to different sectors of the economy so that each and every sector can grow and helped England to come out of economic crisis. The iron and steel industry began to recover. 33% tariff from imposed on iron imports so production could grow more and more without competition. The British Iron and Steel Organization was set up in 1934 so that the iron and steel industries could flourish in England and people could get more employment. In order to develop the iron and steel industry, 33% tariff which was imposed on the iron and steel industry was reduced so that the production could be increased more without any competition from the foreign market. New industries like chemical, fibers, cargoes, radios had a boom. That means these industries also developed in the market due to the policies of Chamberlain Neville. Now let us discuss the reign of Baldwin as Prime Minister. Ramsay MacDonald was tired of heavy work, resigned, and Baldwin became the Prime Minister in 1935. Within the national government, there was change of prime ministership from Ramsay MacDonald to Baldwin. The general election once again confirmed the national government to power. So second time also, national government came into power. Meanwhile, King George V died and Prince Edward VIII was determined to marry an American widow, Mrs. Simpson. Prime Minister Baldwin and the Archbishop of Canterbury opposed the marriage as it would harm the public image of monarchy. Both the Prime Minister and the Archbishop opposed the marriage of Edward VIII with Mrs. Simpson as, according to them, it would bring a bad image of kingship in the eyes of common public. Edward VIII abdicated and was succeeded by his younger brother George VI. When Edward VIII was adamant that he wanted to marry with Simpson, he was dethroned from his throne, and on his place his younger brother George VI became the King of England. Now let us discuss what was the condition of the economy of England during the phase of economic depression. In economic crisis, unemployment and government actions to prevent them, and the succession crisis to the throne so heavily absorbed public opinion that Britain became a little blank and unmindful to the affairs in Europe. When other European countries were busy in overcoming themselves from the economic crisis, England was more busy in internal affairs. The succession crisis, that who would become the King of England, when Edward VIII said that he wanted to marry a widow of America, and Baldwin and both archbishops opposed him, became a thing of argument in England. The government was only focused to remove unemployment and did not pay any attention to increase the circulation of money in the economy and to increase the purchasing power of the customers. In spite of Hitler's rise and his threats, Britain remained pacifist. Hitler rose as a great dictator in Germany, but Britain gave a total negligence to this growing power, as Britain was more busy with its internal problems. Meanwhile, Neville Chamberlain of the Tory party became the Prime Minister. In the beginning of this module, students, I have discussed with you that there had been a national government in Britain from 1929 till 1939. This national government had seen different prime ministers. Firstly, it was Ramsay MacDonald, then Baldwin, and then Neville Chamberlain became its prime minister. The number of unemployed people at the beginning of 1936 reached to 6 million in England, where people were saying that they can't take care of themselves. They wanted that the British government could take care of them and provide them with food and shelter. Now let us discuss the third Prime Minister of national government. After Ramsay MacDonald and Baldwin, Neville Chamberlain became the Prime Minister of England. Neville Chamberlain served as British Prime Minister from 1937 to 1940 and is best known for his policy of appeasement towards Adolf Hitler's Germany. He signed the Munich Agreement in 1938, relinquishing a region of Czechoslovakia to the Nazis. Here, relinquishing means he let Hitler occupy the region of or the area of Czechoslovakia under the Nazi Party. In 1939, Britain declared war on Germany. Amongst the policies of Neville Chamberlain, first important was his policy of appeasement, which he adopted towards Hitler. He let Hitler to occupy the areas of Czechoslovakia, Sudetenland, and did not interfere in the foreign policies of the Nazi Party. This was considered as a big mistake on the part of Neville Chamberlain. To continue his policy of appeasement, he signed the Munich Agreement in 1938 with Hitler, which allowed Hitler to get a legal right over the territories of Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Sudetenland. In 1939, however, England had to declare war against Germany, and this decision was also taken by Neville Chamberlain. Let us discuss what was the Munich Agreement. The Munich Agreement or Munich Betrayal was an agreement concluded at Munich on 30th September 1938. Munich is a city in Germany. So this agreement was signed in Germany on 30th September 1938 by Nazi Germany, the United Kingdom, the French Third Republic, and Kingdom of Italy. So this agreement was basically signed between four powers: Germany, England, France, and Italy, whereby all other three powers, England, Italy, and France, accepted the control of Nazi Party over Czechoslovakia, Sudetenland, and Yugoslavia, declaring it a legal part of the German Empire. It provided secession to Germany of Sudeten German territory of Czechoslovakia. So, Hitler got confidence that the other nations were accepting his demands, and this also became a reason for the Second World War. Many critics of Neville Chamberlain has criticized his policy of signing Munich Agreement. Many historians believe that Chamberlain, Hitler, Churchill, these were the three leaders which led the world to the Second World War, as they signed the Munich Agreement and especially the appeasement policy followed by Chamberlain. Neville was also responsible to driving the world into the Second World War. Students, in this module, we have discussed that how Neville Chamberlain proved to be a good financial exchequer and he brought many reforms from the side of national government in England. But when he became the Prime Minister, he was not successful as Prime Minister, as he was good in the financial matter but not so good in the foreign affair making. So unfortunately, foreign affairs under Chamberlain became the least important subject in his ministerial agenda. His only focus was to remove unemployment from England. Chamberlain's policy towards Germany was criticized by his opponent like Winston Churchill as policy of appeasement. Churchill, who was his opponent and belonged to the Labour Party, which was not a part of the national government, criticized the policy of appeasement of Chamberlain. He said, "It is a way to give a weapon to Hitler. It is a way to say to Hitler that all his attacks were legal and this would become fatal for all the countries in future." Chamberlain could not stop Hitler by concessions. Chamberlain thought that by giving some concession to Hitler over Sudetenland and over Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia, he would be accepted as a legal ruler by most of the European countries, so Hitler would be satisfied and would not attack on any other country in future. But the Munich Pact and sacrifice of Czechoslovakia increased Hitler's appetite. Hitler became more hungry for more and more territories. He did not attack only on Czechoslovakia. Poland was his next target. He made all the territories under his control, where he could seek any economic interest. So after attacking Czechoslovakia and Sudetenland and signing the Munich Agreement with England, France and Italy, the next target of Hitler was Poland. He did not pay any respect to Anglo-French warning and attacked Poland, violating the Treaty of Versailles, Locarno Treaty system. While signing the Munich Agreement, England and France had given warning to Hitler that they were accepting Germany's control over Czechoslovakia, but Germany would not attack on any more territory in future. But Hitler violated the terms of Treaty of Versailles and also the Locarno Treaty system, which was signed between England, France and Germany. He attacked on Poland as he wanted to get the port of Danzig, the most commercial port, which was handed over to Poland after the Treaty of Versailles. Hence, Britain and France declared war against Germany on 3rd September 1939. When the Munich Agreement did not fulfill the appetite of Hitler, he considered that he has right to control all the territories of the world and he attacked on Poland. Britain and France declared war against Germany in the Second World War on 3rd September 1939 and the Second World War began. So where Chamberlain was successful as financial exchequer, he was not successful as the Prime Minister because of his poor understanding of the foreign affairs. Many of the critics of Neville Chamberlain, like Winston Churchill of Labour Party, consider that the policy adopted by Neville Chamberlain towards Hitler was the policy of appeasement. He was of view that Neville Chamberlain proved to be a poor prime minister because He did not have the understanding of the foreign policies. He did not help England to come out of crisis. He was a failed leader in the time of crisis, where England needed a strong leader who could help England in financial as well as the foreign affairs. Neville Chamberlain proved to be a good minister in the economic sphere, in the financial sphere, but proved to be a poor administrator of foreign policies. In his handling of Sudetenland crisis, Chamberlain strengthened his own government just as he had done in Czechs. When Chamberlain adopted the policy of appeasement towards Hitler and signed the Munich Agreement, which accepted Hitler's control over Czechoslovakia, many of his own cabinet ministers were not agreeing with his ideas. But still, he continued his policy of appeasement and signed the Munich Agreement. Second time also, when Sudetenland crisis came, he accepted Hitler's demand over his control over Sudetenland area. Here again, many of his ministers were against his ideology. The Prime Minister did not inform his cabinet or seek its approval before making plans to negotiate personally with Hitler, an action that flouted the conventions of British governmental system. In England, as we know, there had been parliamentary system. In this type of system, a Prime Minister is always assisted with cabinet. Cabinet are the influential ministers which help the Prime Minister to run the government. And according to this system, Prime Minister always remain in contact with his cabinet ministers. All the important decisions are taken by Prime Minister and cabinet unanimously. But Chamberlain went against the principles of the parliamentary system. He did not inform his cabinet ministers of his plans of signing Munich Agreement and policy of appeasement towards Hitler. For his part, Hitler took advantage of the year after Munich to accelerate his country's rearmament. Hitler took the advantage of signing Munich Agreement with England, France and Italy. He prepared his country for more armament and make his country more stronger so that Germany could attack on any country. Urged by members of his government to do the same, Chamberlain retorted, "But don't you see, I have brought back peace." When members of his party claimed that the act done by Chamberlain with Hitler, the policies that he was adopting with Hitler and the signing of Munich Agreement was wrong, he came up with the idea that at least he has brought peace in Europe. And this was his blunder. He did not bring peace in Europe. Rather, he gave a signal to Hitler that England, France and Italy were ready to accept the barbarous act of Hitler. And now let us discuss the Great Depression in France, the second topic of this module. The impact of Great Depression in France was relatively mild. It means it did not affect France as it has affected most of the other countries of Europe. At its maximum, unemployment did not exceed 1 million, less than 5% of 1930 workforce. So there was unemployment, but it was only 5% of the total workforce. The fall in production was also relatively modest and never reached 20% of 1929 output in commerce and manufacturers. No doubt, there was loss in the production also. The fall of production output also was there, but it was only 20% of the total output. The depression in France was not accompanied by banking crisis like other European countries. Only one major bank failed. The reason why there was not so much of impact of Great Depression in France was that unlike other countries, banking system in France did not fail. When we have discussed the reason of the economic crisis, in America, we have discussed that most of the banks of America has crashed down. So, as was the case in Britain, Japan, and Germany also. But in France, banking system was developed and it did not have any effect on the banking system. Only one major bank failed in France, and that was the National Bank of France. Starting in 1931, a number of countries decided to de-evaluate their currency. The value of pound sterling was evaluated in 1931 and US dollars in 1933. Students, it means the official value of pound sterling and US dollars was reduced to other countries. To make it more clear, let us take an example. Suppose a government has set 10 units of its currency equal to $1. To de-evaluate, it might announce that from now onwards, 20 units of its currency will be equal to $1. So, a government reduces the value of its currency in accordance to the other currency. But for the political reasons, French government rejected the option of devaluation and capital control. Children, there had been many countries that opted for devaluating their currency during the time of economic depression. Devaluation means that they have decreased the value of their currency as compared to the other currencies. Amongst those countries which have opted for devaluation were England, Germany, Japan, and America. But French government decided not to devaluate their currency due to political reasons. As there was political instability in France, they did not find a strong financial policy, so devaluation could not take place in France. In 1933, 1/3 of world stock of gold was in France. Because the government did not adopt the policy of devaluation, it helped France that most of the stock of gold was with France till 1933. The government led by Paris-Level then decided in 1935-36 to implement a strict deflationary policy through an act of 1935. He reduced 10% on all public expenditures, including civil servant compensation, as taxes were increased. The first ever strong government in France came under the leadership of Paris-Level, where he decided to adopt a strict deflationary policy. Here, deflationary means that the government decided that they would decrease the prices in the market. And it was done by an act of 1935. The government reduced all the government spendings and also reduced the salaries of the civil servants. On the contrary, the taxes on the common people were increased. In 1936, a combination of socialist and communist won the election. As socialist and communist were very popular in Russia, in France also they had gained importance in their politics. So, a coalition government was formed which comprised of the leader of the Socialist and the Communist Party. The new labor market regulations imposed by the coalition government provoked a large increase in the cost of labor. This new government adopted new labor market regulations which increased the cost of labor. Let us discuss the policies of the coalition government which comprised of the socialist and the communist in order to tackle the economic problem of France. Policies of French government to combat financial crisis. The government imposed collective bargaining on wage contract between employers and trade unions. That means the workers could form the labor unions and could ask for more wages from the mill owners. The second work was the work week was reduced from 48 to 40 hours, keeping the weekly or monthly wage constant. The number of the hours for workers to work was reduced from 48 to only 40 hours. But their salary was not changed. The third act done by the French government was the workers were granted 2 weeks of paid holidays, keeping the weekly or monthly wage constant. Without changing the salaries of the workers on monthly and weekly basis, the workers were given 2 weeks of holidays, and that 2 weeks of holidays were paid holidays by the mill owners. It means reforms were done by the French government to protect the interest of the labor class. Earlier, the French government has reduced the salaries of the civil servants or the bureaucrats. Now, they have ended the reduction on the salaries of the civil servants. At the same time, a nationwide strike movement led by Accord of Mettingen, by which wages were increased on an average 12%. Students, Accord of Mettingen were the strikes which were led by the labor unions of France in order to increase their salaries. Under the pressure of the Accord of Mettingen or the continuous strikes, the workers' salaries were increased in France by 12%. When the French government had given freedom to laborers to form the labor union, they did not expect that these labor unions would start the strikes or Accord of Mettingen in France and would demand for increase in the salaries of the labor class. Let us discuss the results of the economic reforms done by the French government. As a result of the reform policies, labor cost increased by 29%. Out of that 29%, 12% because of Accord of Mettingen or the strikes done by the labor unions, 4% because of the paid holidays that the French government had started, that each workers would be paid 2-week paid holidays. 10.8% labor cost was increased due to 40-hour work per week. Before it, the week hour was 48 hours. Now, according to the new policy of French government, the week hour was reduced to only 40 hours per week. It means that now the government and the industrialists have to pay more to the labor class. At the same time, the French franc was de-evaluated by 30%. Children, before this I have discussed that in France de-evaluation was not done because of lack of a strong centralized government. But now, under the leadership of Paris-Level, the government decided to de-evaluate its currency. Here again, I would like to tell you that de-evaluation means lowering the rate of one's currency in accordance to other currency. Most of the time, countries use the instrument of de-evaluation in order to increase export of its country and to increase the volume of supply in economy. In 1937, the first public budget of coalition increased the taxes but decreased average taxes from 17.4 to 15.8. In the budget of 1937, French government increased the taxes on the people. The coalition government of Socialist and Communist Party increased the taxes on the people, but these people were those who were influential and belonged to the civil servant category. On the normal people, the average taxes were decreased from 17.4 to just 15.8. On the eve of the war, that is 1937 and 1939, in spite of following the implementation of 40-hour work week and drop in the investment, the economy of France slowly recovered. By 1938, the economy entered a pre-war regime. The public expenditure increased, the work week also increased. Though the government has adopted the policy of decreasing the work week hour from 48 hours to 40 hours, and also it resulted in the drop in the investment, but still the French economy recovered, and this was due to the de-evaluation done by the French government. By 1938, the economy of France again started recovering, and public expenditure and public purchasing power increased in France. The purchasing power means the ability of the consumers to buy the products at a particular unit of money. Students, the more the purchasing power of the people are, the more the country is said to be wealthy, as it increases the GDP or the gross domestic product of the country. And GDP of a country is a signal of its wealthiness. So, by the right policies adopted by Paris Level, the French Prime Minister, the French economy started growing, and like all other European countries, it emerged itself from economic depression. But when we talk about the impact of the Great Depression on France, there are some things that we have to keep in our mind. There are 4 basic points should be kept in mind regarding the economic depression in France. The first one is the Great Depression started 1 year later in France than in US. In USA, the Great Depression was started in 1929 because of the crash of the Wall Street and the failing of the banking system. In France, the Great Depression actually started in 1930. The reason why economic depression in France took place 1 year later was that France was not as industrialized as America and England. Moreover, the French economy was isolated from other nations of the world. The second thing that we should keep in our mind regarding the Great Depression in France was there was no major banking crisis in France as it was in America and England. Only the Bank of France was the bank which failed. Before 1934, there was no deflationary policy started by the French government. That means where other countries were de-evaluating the price of their currency as compared to the other currencies, such efforts were not taken by the French government. It was only in 1934 that the British Prime Minister, Paris Level, started the deflationary policies to increase employment level in France. And lastly, during the recession in 1936, a major program was implemented which reminds us the 1933 US New Deal. As Roosevelt started New Deal in USA to recover the US economy from the economic crisis, the same reforms were implemented in France by the Prime Minister Paris Level so that the French economy can tackle the problem of economic depression. These are the subtopics we have covered in this module. We have started this module with the political upheaval in England after the First World War, that how the government kept changing from Tory Conservative Party to Labour Party and from Labour Party to Tory Party, and that was a period of political instability in England. Then we have discussed the formation of national government, where a coalition government was formed by the Conservative Tory Party and the Liberal Party. After that, we have discussed the reforms of the national government. We have discussed the reforms of Neville Chamberlain, where Neville Chamberlain has de-evaluation of pound sterling as compared to the currencies of other nations. Then we have discussed that Chamberlain has increased the salaries of all the civil servants and the common laborers also. We have also discussed agricultural policies carried out by the national government. These agricultural policies were aimed to increase the agricultural production and to give subsidy to the agriculture so that the peasants could get their due for selling their crops. Then we have discussed the economic crisis in England and how the policies of Chamberlain tackled the problem of unemployment when he started the de-evaluation of his currency. After that, we have discussed that Chamberlain as a prime minister was not successful because he was good in financial matter, but his understanding of foreign affairs was poor. He started a policy of appeasement with Hitler, which means Hitler's control over Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia was accepted by the British government. For this act, he was criticized by Winston Churchill, who at that time was the leader of the opposition from Labour Party. After that, we have discussed the impact of economic depression in France, where we have discussed that on France, the economic depression effect was mild. Unemployment level was there, but it was not at that level what it was in England and America. Then we have done the French government's reforms under Paris-Level and how French economy recovered from the economic crisis. In this module, we have covered the following questions. What were the steps taken by the National Government of England to recover from economic crisis? Discuss the reforms done by Neville Chamberlain to improve the economy of England. Describe the policy of appeasement adopted by Chamberlain. What was the Munich Agreement? And what were the steps taken by Paris-Level to end economic crisis in France? If you want to explore more on this topic, you can see 2 YouTube links on your screen. If you want to discover about what were the impacts of the Great Depression in England, you can use the first link, and for Great Depression in France, you can use the second link. I hope this information has been useful for you. With the help of this explanation and internet, you are advised to make the notes of the above topic. We'll meet you in next session. Till then, have a nice day.